Welcome to the new video of Neurophilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin. The trap of happiness. In the modern age, a single phrase echoes through every corner of society. The goal of life is to be happy. It appears in self-help books, motivational speeches, social media posts, and corporate slogans. It is whispered to children and shouted from digital rooftops. The message is always the same. If you are not happy, something is wrong with you. Happiness has been transformed from a feeling into an obligation, from a human experience into a moral demand. Yet beneath its comforting tone, this idea hides a silent danger. The more we chase happiness, the more fragile we become. The more we try to escape discomfort, the less prepared we are to face life. Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, often misunderstood or feared for his uncompromising truths, saw through this illusion long before our era of dopamine-driven distraction. He called this obsession with happiness a symptom of cultural decay, a sign that humanity was trading depth for comfort, courage for compliance, and meaning for pleasure. Nietzsche described this modern condition as slave morality, a mindset that praises safety, comfort, and conformity while condemning struggle, risk, and individuality. It is a morality that seeks to avoid pain at all costs and rewards those who adapt to mediocrity. The person shaped by this system lives not to grow, but to feel good, not to overcome, but to escape. And because life inevitably contains pain, such a person lives in constant fear of reality itself. From childhood, we are taught that suffering is something unnatural, a problem to be solved rather than a teacher to be understood. The cultural narrative tells us that sadness, frustration, or loneliness are flaws that must be quickly repaired. The moment we feel them, we reach for distraction, a new gadget, a new relationship, a new affirmation. But each attempt to escape discomfort weakens the soul a little more. We become dependent on external validation to stay afloat. Fragile beings who mistake momentary comfort for fulfillment. Nietzsche's critique cut deep. A society that worships happiness produces weak individuals. A generation taught that life should always feel pleasant is a generation unprepared for the storms that define existence. When suffering comes, as it inevitably will, they crumble, for they have never been taught how to endure. Their happiness, built on compliments, money, and approval, collapses at the first hint of rejection or loss. True strength, Nietzsche believed, does not arise from constant pleasure, but from confrontation with pain. To live fully is to embrace life's contradictions, joy and sorrow, victory and failure, light and shadow. Growth requires friction. Transformation requires struggle. Every wound carries within it the possibility of wisdom. Every fall is an invitation to rise stronger. His famous declaration, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," has been cheapened by motivational posters, yet its original meaning is profound. It is not an encouragement to simply endure, but a declaration of defiance. It means looking pain in the eye and saying, "You will not destroy me, you will forge me." It is a rejection of the modern cult of comfort, a reminder that meaning cannot exist without struggle. Nietzsche challenges us to abandon the question, "How can I be happy?" and replace it with, "How can I become stronger?" Happiness, in his view, is not a goal but a fleeting byproduct of living with purpose and power. When we stop chasing emotional highs and start cultivating resilience, something extraordinary happens. We begin to feel grounded. Happiness becomes less of a pursuit and more of a quiet companion, a natural result of self-mastery. To live by this philosophy is not to reject joy, but to embrace life as a whole, the joy and the pain, the rise and the fall. Nietzsche's wisdom reminds us that strength is not the absence of suffering, it is the ability to face suffering without losing oneself. The world will continue to challenge you, to test your patience, your love, your endurance. But you are not here to be perpetually comfortable, you are here to grow. The first step toward freedom, then, is to question the very mantra we were raised with. Happiness is not the ultimate goal, It is a fragile emotion that comes and goes like the weather. What matters is the inner climate, the strength of character that allows you to stand tall through every season. Stop running from pain. Stop demanding that life be easy. Instead, learn to build the kind of spirit that can endure anything. Because the storm will not stop, but you can become the one who walks through it with your head held high, calm and unbroken, whispering to the chaos, "You will not destroy me. You will make me stronger." The fragility of the happy generation. We are living in an age where happiness has stopped being a choice and has become an obligation. The world constantly tells us that if we are not smiling, productive and peaceful, something is broken inside us. Every billboard, motivational post and influencer message repeats the same command: you must be happy. But when happiness becomes a duty, every moment of sadness starts to feel like failure. This illusion is not harmless, it is an industry. A billion-dollar empire thrives on the fear of unhappiness. There are books that promise instant joy, courses that guarantee peace, and apps that sell calmness as a subscription. Gurus tell us to meditate for 10 minutes, write 3 things we are grateful for, cut out toxic people, and watch our lives magically transform. Yet beneath the surface, this culture does not create strength, it creates dependency. It teaches people to rely on formulas and affirmations instead of resilience and depth. Friedrich Nietzsche, in his time, saw this danger with chilling clarity. He warned that when society worships comfort and happiness above all else, it prepares its people for collapse. A generation raised to believe life should always feel pleasant becomes emotionally defenseless when reality strikes. He called this decay of inner strength, slave morality. A mindset that avoids difficulty, rejects suffering, and seeks constant reassurance from the world. In this moral system, pain is the enemy, discomfort is a disease, and confrontation is taboo. Individuals shaped by it become fragile. They run from loneliness, hide from responsibility, and mistake distraction for peace. Their emotions depend on fragile conditions: approval, validation, success, and control. When life flows smoothly, they feel invincible. But the moment something goes wrong, a job loss, a heartbreak, a criticism, their entire sense of self collapses. Nietzsche believed that this fragility was not an accident, but the inevitable result of a culture built on denial. The modern person does not want to be strong, they want to be safe. They want life to be predictable, fair, and comfortable, yet the world is none of those things. Life is not designed for constant ease, it is designed for evolution. When individuals expect stability from an unstable reality, they are destined to break. This obsession with happiness also confuses pleasure with purpose. People chase dopamine instead of meaning. They equate comfort with progress and mistake the absence of pain for peace. As a result, they live shallowly, constantly seeking stimulation, approval, or escape. At the first sign of distress, they despair because they have never learned that discomfort is part of being alive. Nietzsche proposed something radical. Stop protecting yourself from pain. Instead, learn to use it. True life begins not when we avoid suffering, but when we transform it. Pain, he believed, is a raw material, a kind of sacred fire that forges strength, depth, and authenticity. Those who embrace their struggles instead of fleeing them become capable of greatness. But embracing pain does not mean romanticizing it, it means accepting it as an essential teacher. It is through pain that we learn endurance, patience, and clarity. It is through pain that we build the courage to stand alone and the humility to understand others. Without pain, there is no self-discovery, only a fragile illusion of happiness waiting to shatter. The modern world, with all its convenience and positivity, has produced an emotionally fragile generation. People crumble under small pressures because they were taught that life should always feel good. They do not seek truth, they seek sedation. They do not grow, they maintain comfort. They are told to think positively while their inner foundations rot from disuse. Nietzsche called this the decline of the human spirit, the slow erosion of vitality under the weight of comfort. And yet, there is a way out. The same suffering we flee from can become the key to freedom. Nietzsche believed that pain, properly faced, awakens the will to power, the inner force that drives us to rise above weakness and limitation. Every difficulty faced consciously strengthens the soul. every challenge accepted deepens our humanity. Those who learn to face pain stop fearing life itself. They no longer depend on perfect conditions to feel at peace. They carry stability within them. They can lose everything, yet remain whole. That is the difference between the fragile and the strong. The fragile person needs comfort to stand. The strong person stands even in chaos.
So the question is not, how do I avoid pain, but rather, what can this pain teach me? Because once you learn that lesson, happiness ceases to be something you chase. It becomes something that quietly follows you, no longer as a fragile mood, but as the natural peace of a person who has learned how to endure. The will to power. If the pursuit of happiness weakens the spirit, then what should take its place at the heart of life? For Friedrich Nietzsche, the answer was not comfort or pleasure, but something far more demanding: strength. He called it the will to power, the inner force that drives human beings to grow, to transcend their limits, and to affirm life even when it hurts. To Nietzsche, life was not a quest for calmness, but a battlefield of becoming. Every challenge, every loss, every heartbreak was an opportunity to confront one's weakness and forge something greater in its place. He saw existence as a constant test, where the measure of a person was not how much pleasure they could accumulate, but how much reality they could endure without breaking. The will to power has often been misunderstood as a desire to dominate others, but Nietzsche's meaning was entirely different. It was about mastering oneself, conquering fear, weakness, and dependence. It is the power that allows you to look into the chaos of life and say, "I will not be defeated. I will grow from this." It is not a loud power, it is silent, disciplined, and inward. In a world obsessed with ease and instant gratification, Nietzsche's vision feels almost violent. He tells us that the individual must go through fire to be purified. The strength he speaks of cannot be bought or learned in a seminar. It must be earned in solitude, in suffering, in honest confrontation with one's inner shadows. To become strong, you must lose the illusion that life should protect you. You must accept that life will test you, and that those tests are not punishments but invitations. He believed suffering was an alchemical process. Just as heat turns raw metal into steel, pain refines the human spirit. What does not kill you truly makes you stronger, not because endurance is noble, but because pain strips away illusions. When you face loss, betrayal, or despair, and still choose to stand, you begin to sense the indestructible part of yourself, the self that is no longer dependent on approval, comfort, or luck. The will to power demands risk. It asks you to move toward what you fear, to choose the path that challenges you, and to refuse the numbing pleasures that make you forget who you are. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort, seeking safety in routines and distractions. But Nietzsche saw that avoidance as decay, the slow death of the human spirit. A person who never confronts difficulty never truly lives. They merely survive, drifting through existence, anesthetized by convenience. He contrasted this with what he called the creator's spirit, those rare souls who turn pain into purpose. For them, adversity is not the end, but the raw material for transformation. When they fall, they rise wiser. When they fail, they learn to rebuild. The world does not get easier for them. They become more capable of carrying its weight. Modern culture tells us to choose the easier road, to go where things flow, where the world agrees with us. Nietzsche whispers the opposite. Go where the weight is. Choose the path that demands more from you. Face what frightens you. Stand where others flee. Because it is only under pressure that your true shape is revealed. The will to power is not about winning. It is about becoming. It is the courage to face the unbearable and remain unbroken. The determination to transform suffering into meaning. It is the refusal to live as a victim. And the paradox, Nietzsche said, is that by embracing struggle, we discover a deeper peace than happiness ever offered. Those who live for comfort live shallowly. Those who live for growth find something eternal within themselves. In the modern world, the will to power is an act of rebellion. It means rejecting the idea that life should be painless. It means choosing to grow instead of escape, to question instead of conform. Each time you resist the temptation to retreat, you strengthen this inner force. Each time you face what hurts, instead of numbing yourself, you feed the fire of the will to power. Nietzsche's words remain both warning and promise. The person who seeks comfort will always be ruled by life,
but the person who seeks strength will eventually rule themselves. The strong do not pray for an easier path, they pray for broader shoulders. They understand that peace is not found in avoiding storms, but in learning to walk through them with steady breath. To cultivate the will to power is to accept the world as it is, brutal, unpredictable, magnificent, and still say yes to it. To live without resentment, to rise again after being broken, to find purpose in pain. That is Nietzsche's vision of greatness. Not a life without struggle, but a life so rooted in inner power that even suffering becomes sacred. The question is no longer, how can I be happy, but how can I become indestructible? And in that question lies the beginning of freedom. The paradox of real satisfaction. When a person stops chasing happiness, an uncomfortable question emerges: what remains? The modern mind trembles at this thought because it has been conditioned to believe that happiness is the ultimate purpose of life. Without it, existence seems empty. But Nietzsche proposed that when we give up this endless chase, something far more profound takes its place, a form of satisfaction that is solid, lasting, and immune to the chaos of circumstance. This kind of fulfillment is not the euphoric happiness that marketing campaigns promise. It is not about smiling through every storm or repeating affirmations until pain disappears. True satisfaction, Nietzsche said, is born not from escaping pain but from transforming it, from the realization that you can endure the full weight of existence without collapsing. It is the calm of someone who has faced the fire and discovered they can survive its heat. Superficial happiness is fragile because it depends on things you cannot control: approval, success, comfort, routine. One small disruption, a rejection, a financial setback, a heartbreak, and the illusion crumbles. You lose not only your happiness, but your sense of identity, because you had built it on temporary ground. Real satisfaction, however, is unshakable. It comes from within, forged through the deliberate choice to confront life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Nietzsche's paradox is that by abandoning happiness, we accidentally find something better. The person who no longer demands constant pleasure starts to cultivate resilience. The person who stops expecting comfort begins to build strength. Slowly, meaning takes root where dependence once lived. This inner sturdiness becomes its own quiet joy, not the shallow thrill of pleasure, but the deep contentment of knowing you can endure. He described this transformation as a reversal of values, the moment when one ceases to measure life by pleasure and begins to measure it by growth. Pain ceases to be a sign of failure, it becomes evidence of depth. Challenges no longer feel like curses, but invitations. The question shifts from, how can I feel good, to, how can I use this? Real satisfaction, Nietzsche argued, is the reward of those who have accepted struggle as a companion, rather than an enemy. It is born when you stop fleeing discomfort and begin to see in it the blueprint of your evolution. Each wound, when faced honestly, teaches something vital: humility, patience, or the limits of control. Each loss becomes a mirror, revealing what truly matters. This inner satisfaction is invisible to the world. It does not parade itself on social media or seek approval. It grows quietly in the background, like roots beneath the soil. It is the silent pride of someone who knows that chaos cannot destroy them. It is not loud, but it is unbreakable. To reach this level of being, Nietzsche said, one must pass through solitude, not loneliness, but solitude as a sacred test. When you stop distracting yourself from pain and instead sit with it, you begin to understand who you are without masks. You learn that you can fall apart and still rebuild yourself. That realization is not pleasant, but it is freedom. This path is not for everyone. It requires sacrifice, the giving up of easy certainties, and the courage to face one's own shadows. Most people prefer comfort over growth because growth demands pain. But Nietzsche insisted that everything of true value is born from struggle. The price of strength is suffering, and the reward of suffering well is clarity. And here lies the great irony. When you stop running from pain, you stop fearing it. The fear of suffering disappears because you have learned to endure it. And in that endurance, life becomes lighter. You no longer need to cling to happiness, because you have discovered something deeper. Peace. Not the fragile peace that vanishes when things go wrong, but the peace that remains even when everything collapses. This peace does not mean the absence of emotion. It means emotional maturity, the ability to experience everything, from sorrow to joy, without being shattered by it. It is the knowing that even if life breaks you again, you will rise. True satisfaction, Nietzsche teaches, is not found by avoiding pain but by integrating it. It is the serenity of one who can look at life in all its brutality and still say yes. It is the silent triumph of someone who no longer depends on a perfect world to feel complete.
Happiness was never the goal. It was only the bait. The real reward lies beyond it, in the creation of a self so grounded, so whole, that even the fiercest storms cannot uproot it. And that, Nietzsche believed, is the beginning of wisdom. When you no longer ask life to be easier, but instead become strong enough to live it as it is. Becoming storm-proof. The storm will not stop. No matter how much we meditate, manifest, or plan, life will always find ways to test us. There will be loss, betrayal, failure, and moments that strip away everything familiar. Nietzsche understood this truth with a clarity few dared to face. His message was never that we could escape pain. It was that we could become strong enough to withstand it. The goal, he said, is not to hope for an easier life, but to build a stronger soul. Freedom, for Nietzsche, was not found in changing the world, but in transforming oneself to meet it head-on. It is the freedom of a person who no longer demands perfect conditions to remain calm. It is the quiet power of one who has accepted the chaos of existence and learned to stand within it without losing their balance. The storm will not stop, Nietzsche might say, but you can become the one who walks through it. This is the essence of becoming storm-proof, to develop a psyche that does not shatter under pressure. Pain, when faced consciously, becomes training. Disappointment becomes instruction. Every difficulty becomes part of the sculpting process. Nietzsche called this the art of inner sculpture. Just as a sculptor chips away at marble to reveal form, life chips away at our illusions to reveal our core. Each blow of hardship, each loss, each heartbreak removes what is false until only what is solid remains. Most people, however, resist this process. They spend their lives trying to shield themselves from suffering, believing comfort equals safety. But comfort is a fragile illusion. The moment the winds rise, a relationship ends, a job disappears, a dream collapses. The walls built on comfort crumble. The person who has never faced pain stands defenseless before it. Nietzsche warned that this is how the modern soul weakens, not through malice or corruption, but through avoidance. To live fully, he said, we must face suffering, not as victims, but as participants. Pain is not the enemy. Evasion is. Each time you endure something difficult without retreating, you are training yourself to become unbreakable. The one who chooses truth over illusion, responsibility over escape, and courage over comfort is building the kind of strength that nothing external can take away. Nietzsche's vision of strength was not cold indifference, it was depth. The strong person is not emotionless, they are emotionally vast. They can hold both joy and pain without being consumed by either. They feel deeply but are not ruled by their feelings. Their calm is not numbness but mastery, the ability to remain whole in the presence of chaos. He described this power as the will to affirm life, even in its harshest forms. To look at suffering, loss and injustice, and still say, yes, this too belongs. This is not surrender, it is transcendence. It is the acceptance that life's brutality is inseparable from its beauty. The same world that wounds you also shapes you. The same storm that threatens to drown you can teach you how to breathe underwater. Becoming storm-proof requires the courage to stop seeking fairness. Life will not bend to your will. People will fail you, plans will fall apart, but strength lies in choosing integrity over bitterness, in deciding that, no matter what collapses around you, you will not collapse within. Nietzsche believed that character is built precisely in these moments, when everything external is lost, and you must rely solely on the inner structure you've built through every previous struggle. This kind of resilience is not gifted, it is earned.
Every time you rise after falling, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you act with dignity in the face of pain, you polish your inner armor. Over time, suffering no longer feels like punishment, but like pressure, shaping you into who you were meant to become. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I make from this?" And then, something extraordinary happens. The very things that once broke you begin to empower you. Pain, loss, and failure no longer steal your peace, they refine it. You realize that you do not need a calm sea to feel steady. You have become the calm in the storm. The final truth Nietzsche offers is both hard and liberating. Happiness is not the destination, and suffering is not the enemy. They are both parts of the same journey, the fire and the forge. What defines you is how you move through them. You cannot stop the storm, but you can become the kind of person who walks through rain and thunder with head high, heart steady, and eyes open. Someone who no longer begs life to be gentle, but becomes gentle in the face of life. And when the world breaks again, as it will, you will not collapse. You will stand, not because the pain is gone, but because you have learned what Nietzsche meant all along. Happiness was never the goal. Strength is.